Unearthed, 7 spine-chilling true tales of haunting stalkers and their terrifying obsessions. The summer sun hung high over Maplewood, Missouri, casting a warm glow on the quiet suburb where families thrived. The Hendersons, like many in their neighborhood, had everything: a comfortable home, laughter, and a semblance of security. But as the day faded, so did their comfort, eclipsed by a chilling reality. Their perfect lives were about to be tainted by shadows lurking outside their door. When the first letter arrived, Carol Henderson barely gave it a second glance. It was addressed simply to Lily, the name of her youngest child, in a scrawled handwriting that twisted like a vine. She assumed it was a prank and tossed it, but goosebumps trickled down her arms. The words inside were vague yet unsettling, noting how Lily loved to play tag with the neighbor's cat. Surely, just kids being kids. But when more letters began to arrive, each one unfurling layers of their family's secrets, like the time Tom forgot their anniversary, or how Carol once yelled at Lily for leaving her dolls out. The air around the Henderson home grew thick with dread. Days turned into a blur of dread and uncertainty, marking the joy of summer barbecue nights with an apprehension that clung like the smoke from the grill. It felt like living in a horror movie. Who could know these details? Who was watching them? The letters slipped into the shadows of their daily lives until one night, the words hung like a noose, "I know you're home." That was when Carol's disbelief morphed into stark terror, twisting her stomach until it knotted painfully. She had to investigate. Her maternal instinct clawed at her, making fear almost unbearable. Damaged echoes of laughter that used to spill from their backyard now fell silent, replaced by a yearning for answers. With each rustle of leaves outside, her heart raced, pounding against her chest like a trapped bird. So, off she went to the local library, the walls adorned with history books that whispered secrets of Maplewood past. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the dim light of the library, Carol unearthed stories about families who vanished without a trace, the town's history drenched in mystery and whispered curses. As she shared her findings with concerned neighbors, their eyes widened in shared dread, comfort becoming shadows murmuring across the unkempt tables. Discussions of ghostly sightings and odd happenings crackled like electricity in the air. Maplewood wasn't just innocent suburbia, it had a history so intertwined with heartbreak, it made her skin crawl. But it wasn't just paranormal speculation. As the ties between her family and those who came before them grew stronger, a moral divide struck the community. Some clung to tradition, treading carefully around tales of the unknown, while others gravitated toward the intrigue and unspoken fear and fascination flickering in their eyes. Just as she felt she might unravel the truth, another letter inched closer to breaking her spirit. The ink dripped with malice. What will you sacrifice to protect your family? The enveloping dread seeped into every crevice of their home, and it was then, as Carol gathered her family for what should have been a carefree evening, they heard the unmistakable rustling outside, a chilling reminder that their stalker was more than just a figment of their fears. Cold sweat trickled down her spine as she whispered, "Who's there?" The answer was closer than they could ever imagine, teetering on the edge of reality, trailing deeper into darkness. The rustling grew louder, almost mocking in its insistence. Carol's heart thundered in her ears as she gripped the back of the chair, her fingernails biting into the wood. The shadows outside danced like phantoms in a sinister ballet, echoing her spiraling fears. "Tom, did you hear that?" she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper, tea-like in its fragile consistency. Tom, who had his back turned to the window, stiffened. The playfulness of their earlier dinner faded into the gravity of the moment. "Yeah, I heard," he replied, his tone steady but his eyes wide. "Stay here with the kids." But Carol couldn't stay put, the urge to protect surged through her like fire. "I'll take a look," she insisted. Forcing her legs to move, she stumbled toward the door. Each step felt like a plunge into icy water, drawing her deeper into an unknown that begged to be unearthed. The fresh night air slapped her face as she stepped outside, the oppressive warmth of the house lingering behind her. She felt exposed, like a raw nerve in the dark. The moon laid a pale blanket over the yard, illuminating everything in an eerie glow. A gust of wind rattled the trees, and she swore she heard a chuckle, a sound too thin to belong to a person. "Who's there?" She called out, the bravado in her voice shaking like leaves on a branch. Silence answered. The letters flitted across her mind, each one a snapshot of secrets, each one a reminder that they were being watched. Turning slowly, she scanned the perimeter of her yard, a sinister game of hide and seek. "Show yourself!" she shouted, fierce resolve flooding her. The shadows shifted, revealing nothing but emptiness and the distant promise of a once peaceful summer night. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught movement, a flash of dark clothing darting behind a tree, just beyond the edge of the light. She froze. Her heart raced, each beat echoing her name in a frantic rhythm. Could it be? The stalker? "Tom! Get the flashlight!" she yelled, not breaking her gaze from the spot where she had seen the movement. But her husband's hurried footsteps felt so distant compared to the looming dread pooling in her gut. Tom rushed out, the beam of the flashlight cut through the darkness, slicing it like butter. It swept across the yard, revealing nothing. Carol felt her breath hitch, the fear that had been a quiet hum now screamed. "Where?" Tom asked, squinting into the darkness. "What did you see?" "I swear, something moved over there," she insisted, pointing toward the tree. But as they both peered into the night, there was nothing. Just the stillness of the yard. The stillness felt wrong, everything felt wrong. The door creaked open behind them, pulling their attention back. It was Lily, her tiny hand clutching the railing, her eyes wide with innocence and fear. "Mommy, I'm scared." Carol stepped forward quickly, wrapping her arms around Lily. "It's okay, sweetie. Just stay close," she managed, though moisture gathered in her eyes. Then, amidst the murmur of the encroaching night, her phone buzzed, startling them all. Carol's eyes shot to the screen, one new message from an unknown number. Her heart dropped as she opened it with trembling fingers. "I see you, Carol. I see your family, and I know your secrets." A mist of fear enveloped her. What secrets did this person know, and how could they possibly be revealed? Panic seized her throat, her worst nightmare was no longer confined to ink and paper. "Tom, we need to go inside. Now!" she shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of impending doom. But as she turned toward the door, shadows shifted again and she swore she could feel eyes boring into her back. The night air turned sour as a warning whispered on the wind, singing of the dangers that lay ahead. And in the silence that followed, a low laugh rang out, echoing a chilling promise. Let the games begin. Once again, darkness pooled around them like a predator waiting to strike. Carol's instincts screamed at her to flee, but her legs felt anchored to the ground. A suffocating dread twisted in her stomach like a vice. "We have to move," she urged again, adrenaline sharpening her senses. Tom, his face pale in the flashlight's beam, quickly ushered the kids back inside. "Lily, Noah, stay in the living room. Don't come out until we say so," he instructed, his voice steady but firm. Carol instinctively held Lily closer, her tiny frame shivering in fear. "Mommy, I want to go home," Lily whimpered, looking up with tears glimmering in her eyes. Carol's heart ached at the innocence that shouldn't have to bear the weight of this horror. "Shoo, we're going to be okay," she whispered, forcing a brave smile that felt more like a mask than a true expression of comfort. But deep down, she wasn't convinced. Outside, the shadows warped and twisted, curling around the tree trunks like slithering serpents. As Tom whispered to Carol, their whispers barely broke through the palpable tension. "There's something wrong with the message. We need to call the police. Now." Carol nodded, still clutching her phone. What if it's too late? The thought battered her like a wave crashing against a fragile shoreline. She said she's watching us. Tom's gaze darted around, close to Wild. Do you think, could she be close? Carol caught her breath, a knot tightening in her throat. I don't know. But we can't let the kids stay here. Okay, let us get them ready. I'll grab the keys. Tom slipped into the house, and in that moment of peace, Carol felt a shift in the air. The subtle sense that something was wrong intensified like the taste of metal on her tongue. Mommy? Noah, small and freckled, peeked into the entryway. His wide blue eyes were mirrors of fear and curiosity. Carol knelt to him, forcing her voice to be reassuring. Stay with Lily. Please, don't go anywhere. We'll be just a moment. But just as she stood up, the low chuckle erupted again, nearer this time. It almost felt like a breath on her neck. Tom! Panic exploded in her chest. Hurry! Tom emerged from the house, keys trembling in his hand. We can't waste any more time. In one swift motion, he ushered the kids past Carol, instructing them to each sit tight in the car. The moment they disappeared into the vehicle, the air shifted once more. Something about the stillness felt sinister. Carol could barely think. She stepped toward Tom, who was already checking the surroundings with frantic eyes. Did you hear that? He asked, voice low. Hear what? She urged, looking back at the darkened yard. The beat, like footsteps. Tom's lips thinned as realization crossed his mind. What if? Before he could finish, the harsh ring of Carol's phone pierced the silence. Her heart surged, and a deep-seated dread clawed at her. One glance at the screen revealed a familiar face, one she hadn't seen in years. Who is it? Tom demanded, his eyebrows furrowed. It's good old Jessie, she confessed, trying to suppress the familiar shivers that accompanied the name. The girl from college. Who? The phone buzzed again, another text came through. Carol opened it with trembling hands. Are you scared yet? I missed you. Horrified, her chest tightened. Carol felt as though the ground beneath her was slipping away. When she looked up, Tom's face turned ashen. We need to leave. Right now. Yes, she hissed, heart pounding against her ribcage. They hurried toward the car, every ounce of energy focused on reaching safety. But just as the engine roared to life, the world around them faded. Carol glanced in the rearview mirror to see a figure standing by the tree, arms crossed, a wicked smile etched on their face. The figure melted into the shadows, leaving only the echo of that chilling laughter in its wake. Drive! Drive! She screamed, panic flooding her. The wheels peeled away, but the laughter lingered, promising that this wasn't over. In the distance, a single thought clawed at her mind. What if this was only the beginning? The car bucked and roared down the narrow road, the headlights cutting through the inky darkness. Carol's heart raced, a relentless drumbeat of fear. Each mile away from the house felt like a small victory, but the weight of dread clung to her like damp fog. Did you see her? Did you? Tom's voice trembled next to her, filled with a mix of disbelief and panic. She was right there. Carol gasped, squeezing the steering wheel as if it would somehow shield them from the nightmare. That smile, it was like she was waiting for us to leave. What was she thinking? Tom hardly whispered the words. Jessie, of all people. Why now? We should have blocked her number. I just didn't think. Just focus on driving. Tom snapped, and Carol flinched at the frustration in his voice. He was scared, they both were. Noah's worried voice broke through the tension. Are we in danger? Is that lady going to get us? Carol turned to glance at her son, his little face awash with confusion and fear. No, sweetie. We're okay. We just need to put some distance between us and her. Mommy, I'm scared, Lily cried from the back seat, her voice small and trembling. We'll be okay, Carol promised, forcing the calmness back into her tone. But even as she said it, a pit of anxiety gnawed at her. Behind them, shadows pressed in close, creeping along the darkness like a horde of unseen creatures. As they sped along winding roads, the quiet of the night turned into an echo of uncertainty. Then, as if the night itself had taken a breath, the headlights flickered. Not now. Tom gripped the dashboard as the lights dimmed, then flickered back to life. We can't lose our grip on the engine, sputtered and then coughed, a horrible sound that sent sharp jolts of panic racing through Carol's body. Please, please don't die on us now. No. Not like this. Tom's voice rose, urgency twisting through every word. Pull over. Noah shouted, his small hands gripping the seat. Just hold tight. Carol screamed, jamming her foot down harder on the pedal. The car jerked and then sputtered again, the angry sounds reverberating as they barreled forward. Do you think she's following us? Tom asked, his eyes darting around. What if she's out there, just waiting? Shut up. I don't want to think about that. Carol snapped, but her insides churned with the possibility. The road twisted, a narrow lane flanked by dense trees, swallowing their escape route. Carol strained to listen, the silence of the night pressing in, every rustle magnified. What if Jessie really was just behind them? What if she was playing some sick game, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Mommy, look! Lily shouted, pointing ahead. Carol squinted, trying to make out what was happening. In the distance, headlights glimmered like distant stars. A car was approaching from the opposite direction. Hope surged within her, maybe they could flag it down for help, but as the car drew closer, lights flaring in their rearview mirror, Carol's stomach dropped. The vehicle was moving too fast, trailing them like a phantom. The gleaming headlights pulsed with sinister intent. Keep driving. Tom urged, panic creeping into his voice. They shot past each other, and Carol's heart raced before she whipped her head around. In the brief second when their eyes met through the glass, she saw it, the wicked smile she had glimpsed before. Fingers gripped the steering wheel like a vice, fear surged. The laughter echoed in her mind, taunting her. Drive faster. Tom urged, almost pleading. But the reality was, they were not just running from a figure in the shadows, they were being hunted. Mommy, who was that? Noah asked, breathless. Carol couldn't respond. The echoing laughter returned, this time piercing the air. It lured them into confusion. Was it real or just a trick of her mind? The road ahead forked unexpectedly, confusion nearly causing her to panic. Left or right? She had no idea. The darkness pressed in all around, whispering warnings she dared not acknowledge. Every second felt eternal. Then, in the rearview mirror, she saw it again, the headlights closing in. We can. Keep running. We need a plan. A cold voice echoed in her mind, the ever-present reminder that Jessie was out there, reveling in the chase. But before she could draw a breath to speak, the car shuddered violently. A loud pop echoed, and the steering wheel jerked in her hands. A flat. No. Desperation clawed at her throat. Not now. As the car drifted uncontrollably to the side of the road, Carol's world narrowed to that single moment, a choice to fight or become prey. And in the distant shadows, the laughter rolled in like thunder, promising the hunt was far from over. The car veered onto the shoulder, scraping against the gravel and sending a shudder through their bodies. Carol's palms were slick with sweat, her heart racing as she slammed to a stop. The engine sputtered to silence, a chilling finality echoing in the stillness. Everyone out. Tom's voice cut through the tension, panic-stricken but commanding. We can't stay here. Are you crazy? Carol barked, her eyes wide. What if she finds us? She'll find us if we stay in the car. Tom slammed his door. Now. With no time to argue, Carol threw open her door and jumped out, grabbing Lily's hand and ushering Noah out behind her. The air was heavy with night and dread, each breath a reminder of the danger close behind. "Where are we going?" Noah's voice trembled, looking up to his mother with wide, frightened eyes. "Into the woods," Carol whispered, scanning their surroundings. Trees loomed ominously, cloaked in shadows. "We'll hide just for a little while." "Mommy, I don't want to go in there," Lily whined, her small fingers tightening around Carol's hand. "You have to trust me," Carol insisted, her voice steady but filled with fear. "We have to be quiet and stick together." A snap of a branch echoed from behind them, freezing Carol's heart in her chest. Was it Jessie? Was she already here? Every instinct screamed at them to run, yet the darkness felt like a living entity, wrapping around them like a shroud. Without another moment to lose, they dashed into the underbrush, feet crunching silently against twigs and dry leaves. Carol's mind raced, conflicted between fear and a fierce maternal drive to protect her children. "Do you think she'll see us?" Noah's question hung in the air, heavy and palpable. I don't know," Carol stammered. She pushed deeper into the thicket, praying for an answer, for a sign. All she could hear was the pounding of her heart, the rasp of her breath, and the faint sounds of movement behind them that set off every alarm in her body. "Stay close," she murmured, but inside, anxiety clawed at her as they moved. Each rustle of leaves was a warning, each whisper of wind a reminder of their vulnerability. Just 20 steps in, they reached a clearing. The moonlight broke through, casting a silvery glow over the ground, and there, looming above, stood a twisted oak, its gnarled branches reaching for the sky like skeletal fingers. Tom glanced around frantically. "We can hide behind that tree." "It's big enough," he whispered, even though his eyes told Carol he wanted to see the danger that lurked behind them. She nodded, knowing they had no real choice. As they crouched behind the mighty trunk, the shadows became their only companions. Carol held Lily close, shushing her softly as the rustle of leaves grew louder, closer. With every heartbeat, the cacophony of night enveloped them more tightly, an orchestra of chirping crickets, distant hoots from an owl, and the unsettling crunch underfoot that hinted someone or something was drawing ever near. Mommy Lily's voice trembled into a whisper, eyes wide and scared. "What if she finds us?" "Just stay quiet, sweetheart," Carol soothed, brushing back her daughter's hair. But her heart sank as she caught Tom's fearful gaze. He was terrified, she could see it etched across his face. Then, through the shadows, a figure materialized, the cruel glint of her smile piercing the darkness. Carol's breath hitched as Jessie stepped further into the clearing, her silhouette stark against the night sky, eyes gleaming with delight as if she were savoring the hunt. "We can't stay here," Tom hissed, fear brimming in his voice. Before Carol could respond, Jessie's laughter sliced through the night, a chilling melody that sent shivers down Carol's spine. "Oh, come out, wherever you are," Jessie called, her voice sweet yet ominous, weaving through the trees like a sinister lullaby. The blood drained from Carol's face. They were no longer safe. Jessie had found them. "Run!" Tom shouted, and the command jolted them into gear. They broke through the underbrush, darting toward the opposite side of the clearing, but the laughter grew louder, more assured. "What now?" Noah asked, panic stretching his voice. "Find the road," Carol urged, but with every footfall, the shadows closed in tighter, promising that the worst was yet to come. In the deep recesses of the woods, a cacophony erupted. The laughter transformed into a haunting shriek that echoed through the trees, chasing them deeper into the night, into the unknown. "Mom! I can't keep up!" Lily cried, stumbling over roots and branches. Carol's heart sank. "Just hold my hand. Don't let go." As they ran, every instinct begged her to protect her children. But Jessie was close, and her presence was a force that pulled them further into the horror they had tried to escape. What happened when they reached the road? Would they find safety, or was Jessie closer than they ever imagined? Carol's breath came in quickened gasps, as uncertainty wrapped around her, poised to engulf them in its chilling embrace. The world around them blurred as they raced through the woods, every breath a rasping reminder of their desperation. The lurking darkness felt thick, as if it had teeth waiting to bite. Jessie's laughter echoed, sinister and relentless, reverberating among the trees like a haunting specter. "Faster!" Tom urged, his voice strained. The urgency in his tone pushed Carol forward, but the underbrush snagged at their legs, branches clawing at their clothes like desperate hands trying to hold them back. "Mommy! I'm scared!" Lily whimpered, her voice just above a whisper, a thin veil of fear shadowing her innocence. "Me too, sweetie, but we can't stop," Carol replied, squeezing her daughter's hand. The weight of fear settled heavily in her chest. Were they truly escaping? Or was this a futile race toward an inevitable confrontation? With every step, Carol glanced over her shoulder, expecting to see Jessie emerge from the shadows at any moment. The laughter took on a life of its own, swirling around them, echoing from different directions, taunting and tantalizing. Was it close? Was it just in her head? She pushed the thought away. They had to keep moving. They broke through a line of trees and found themselves on a narrow path. The moon shone brightly above, illuminating the way ahead. It was a fleeting taste of safety, but it came at a cost. There was nowhere to hide. The darkness seemed to stretch into eternity, leaving them exposed. "Where do we go?" Noah gasped, his breath coming out in quick bursts that betrayed his growing exhaustion. "Just keep moving. We'll find a way out of here," Carol insisted. "We just need to get to the road." As they pushed onward, a chilling silence descended, smothering the once vibrant sounds of the night. Carol's heart thundered in her chest as a sense of dread washed over her. When the laughter stopped, it felt like the calm before the storm, an unsettling pause that held the promise of an impending return. A shiver ran down her spine. "Tom, where is she? Why isn't she following us?" Carol whispered, her voice trembling. "Maybe she's lost," Tom suggested, though there was no conviction in his tone. Their fear mingled in the air, thickening the atmosphere. But before they could even hope for relief, the laughter erupted again, this time echoing through the trees with a chilling finality. "You can't run forever," Jessie called, the sound wrapping around them like a noose tightening slowly. "Quick!" Tom urged, glancing to either side of the path, desperate. "We need a place to hide again." They darted down the width of the path, but it felt like it was closing in on them, branches squeezing tighter. Carol's mind raced, searching frantically for an escape. Up ahead, she saw a dilapidated shack, partially hidden by overgrown bushes. It was a sign of humanity in an otherwise forsaken setting. It might be just what they needed. "There. The shack." Carol pointed, their pace quickening with a mix of hope and dread. Inside the structure, dim moonlight spilled through broken windows, illuminating a dust-covered interior littered with forgotten relics. As they rushed in and closed the door behind them, Carol's heart raced with both anxiety and relief. "Mommy, what if she finds us in here?" Lily whispered, her voice quaking. "We'll have to be very quiet," Carol said, though her own confidence faltered under the weight of reality. She pressed a finger to her lips, shushing her children. Every creak of the shack made her jump, every gust of wind felt like a foreboding sign. Suddenly, a noise pierced the stillness outside, the sound of footsteps crunching on leaves, a shadow dancing just outside the window. Carol's breath hitched. "Shoo!" she urged, raising her hand as her heart raced. The footsteps stopped, and for a chilling moment, the silence wrapped around them like a shroud. Mommy, Noah's voice broke the stillness. "Don't." Carol couldn't finish her sentence, the air in her lungs frozen with fear. As the sounds resumed, they turned to the door. It began to creak slightly, as if someone or something had pushed against it, testing the boundary of their fragile sanctuary. Carol's stomach dropped. Was it too late? Had they trapped themselves? Would they even make it out of the woods alive? a sudden crash echoed as the door was flung open, sending splinters flying. Carol's heart raced, and she instinctively shielded her children as the figure stepped into the dim light, eyes glinting with a twisted satisfaction. The face that emerged was one Carol had come to dread, the familiar features twisted into a maniacal grin. Jessie stood there, victorious, enveloped by the shadows of the night. "Looks like you've run out of places to hide," she sang out, her voice a sickly sweet lilt. "Shall we play?" The fear settled deep into Carol's bones. This was only the beginning. What horrors awaited them in the darkness? Would they stand a chance against Jessie's madness? As dread curled around her heart, Carol's resolve ignited. They had survived this long. She couldn't let it end here. "Get ready," she whispered to Tom and the children, adrenaline surging through her veins. But what could they do when the true horror was just beginning to unfold? "Let the games begin," Jessie taunted, her voice trailing off into wicked laughter that echoed off the shack's walls. Carol's heart raced, panic threading through her veins like ice. "What do we do?" Tom's voice quavered, eyes darting around the room as if walls might shift to swallow them whole. "Stay behind me," Carol hissed, hands gripping her children tighter. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but they were cornered, trapped within a rickety cage built of rust and dread. Jessie stepped further into the shack, her silhouette framed by the moonlight filtering through broken windows. Shadows danced across her face, accentuating the manic gleam in her eyes. "Hiding in here is cute, but I've been waiting for this moment, and now it's finally here." "In your dreams," Carol shouted, defiance cracking through her fear. "We're not playing your stupid games, Jessie." "Oh, but you already are." Jessie smirked, tilting her head like a curious predator. "The real game is survival, Carol, and you've made it this far. But I promise you it's going to get much more interesting." With a snap of her fingers, the door slammed shut, sending splinters flying again. The air seemed to thicken with tension, wrapping around them like a tight coil. Carol felt her chest tighten as her gaze flicked to the windows. There was nowhere to escape, yet the fear bubbling inside her urged her to find a way out. "Mommy, I don't like this." Lily's whimper pierced through the enveloping darkness, and Carol turned to her daughter, forcing a calmness into her voice. "We'll be all right, sweetheart. Just stay close," she promised, but the truth loomed heavy. Carol's mind raced, trying to devise a plan. There had to be something they could use, a way to turn the tables. Jessie began to circle them like a shark, her smile widening with each passing second. "You think you can save your little family? I know all your fears, Carol. You can't hide from me." Carol's heart pounded at Jessie's words, each one digging into her like a knife. She glanced at Tom, their eyes meeting briefly, and in that split second, unspoken resolve passed between them. They had to stick together. "We can't let her get in our heads," Tom murmured, and his grip on Carol's shoulder tightened, grounding her. "But how?" Carol's voice trembled as she tried to calculate their next move. "We're outnumbered." "She's crazy?" Tom interjected, his determination flickering to life. "Yes, but that also makes her unpredictable. We can use that." But before they could strategize, Jessie lunged forward, startling them. "Too slow." She shrieked, her laughter suddenly menacing. The room erupted into chaos. Carol saw her children flinch at the sound, and it ignited a primal instinct to protect. "No! Back away from them!" she yelled, stepping in front of Lily and Noah, burning with fierce resolve. Jessie froze momentarily, her expression shifting from playful to furious. "You'd sacrifice yourself for them?" She seethed, eyes narrowing. Carol held firm, heart racing as time seemed to stretch like taffy. "I would do anything to keep them safe." An eerie silence fell, filled only with the sound of their ragged breaths. The tension between them crackled, like static in the air. Carol could feel the looming threat just beyond the walls, pounding against the fragile facade of safety they clung to. "Then let us make it fair," Jessie snarled, her voice low, filled with menace. For each lie you've told to keep them close, I'll take something from you. A piece of your heart with every breath you take. No. Carol spat, adrenaline coursing through her. I won't let you. Suddenly, the floorboards creaked under Jessie's weight as she took a step back. Then let us see what your heart is really made of. She hissed, her voice launching into manic laughter once again. In that moment, Carol was struck by a thought. Jessie thrived on manipulation, on fear. If that was her game, perhaps they could turn it against her. Tom, Carol whispered, her mind racing with possibilities. What if? But just as she began to formulate a plan, a crashing sound echoed, shaking the shack to its core. The very walls seemed to protest Jessie's vile presence, as if they, too, wished to rid themselves of her torment. What was that? Noah whimpered, eyes darting to the windows. Whatever it is, it can't be good, Tom replied, tension in every line of his body. Jessie's laughter halted, shifting to focus, a rare tension in her demeanor. Too bad, you're not in control anymore. Fear clenched Carol's stomach as the door creaked, the sound of something or someone moving on the other side. What if there was something lurking outside that posed an even greater threat than Jessie? Unease crept in as they waited, hearts earning a measure of hope that perhaps they wouldn't face Jessie alone, but at what cost? The sense of impending doom thickened, leaving them breathless. Would help come in time, or would they be plunged deeper into chaos? And as the door swung open, dark shadows stretching into the shack, the chilling question remained: who or what awaited them beyond the threshold? The door creaked further open, revealing a silhouette draped in shadow. Carol's breath hitched in her throat. The shape loomed larger, a dark figure stepping into the dim light of the shack. No, 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 Jessie stammered, moving back, directly into Carol's line of fire. The three of them, pressed together like sardines, barely had the room to breathe. The outline remained still at first, then stepped forward, revealing an unkempt figure, eyes wild. Help please! A rasping voice broke the spell of fear, sending chills racing down Carol's spine. Who are you? Tom demanded, gripping Carol's arm tighter. Get back! Jessie screamed, her once confident bravado crumbling like sandcastles against the tide. As if sensing Jessie's fear, the figure advanced, dragging a foot that seemed to scrape against the floor like nails against chalkboard. Carol's instinct screamed to protect her kids, but the question lingered: was this stranger a savior or another predator? We aren't going to hurt you, Carol managed to say, her throat dry, heart pounding like a drum solo. What happened? The figure's face was barely illuminated, but Carol could make out the hollowed cheeks and the desperation in their eyes. The forest, something in the forest, it's coming. Coming? What do you mean? Tom pressed, tilting his head to catch the man's gaze. I heard it, felt it, it watches you with each word. The stranger's breath became shallower. They call it the Wraith. Jessie's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and unhinged recognition flashing across her face. No, it can't be. What is it? Carol asked, noting the tremor in Jessie's voice. What is the Wraith? Something that hungers, the stranger croaked. Preys on fear, it's an ancient darkness. The air in the shack turned icy, suspense crawling beneath their skin. Carol's grip on her children tightened. The thought of another malevolent force at play struck her like a blow. Stop it. You're trying to scare us. Jessie snapped, but her voice wavered. The facade of control she had worn so well was cracking, and for the first time, Carol felt a glimmer of power. Fear is all it needs, the stranger continued, ignoring Jessie. He staggered closer, risking the wrath of their tormentor. If Jessie is right, and it's after you, you're already in its sights. Tom glanced at Carol, and in that moment, they shared a silent agreement. It was time to act. What do we do? His voice had become sharp and urgent. Run. The stranger urged them, pleading with wide eyes. You must leave the shack. Now. And risk Jessie? Carol replied incredulously. She's the one we need to escape. She's nothing compared to the Wraith. You have to trust me. The stranger's desperation radiated like heat from fire, but Jessie was ready. Oh, please, Jessie interjected with a smirk that held no mirth. Look at you, all wild and dirty. You expect us to believe you? Jessie, this isn't the time. Tom shouted, fear edging his tone. But Jessie stepped forward, right to the outsider. What do you know about me? You think you fought this battle? What battle? Torn between the two, Carol held her breath, every nerve ending alert and frayed. The room had turned into a pressure cooker, heat mingling with adrenaline. Just then, an unnatural sound echoed, like a long, low wail thundering from outside the shack. The sound seemed to crawl under their skin, the walls reverberating with malevolence. The stranger's expression shifted to pure terror. It knows. There was no denying the sense of urgency that rattled through them. Carol's heart raced, instincts kicking in. The door was still wide open, dark tendrils of fear inching closer. Are we really going to stand here? She demanded, feeling the moment slip through her fingers like sand. Go now. The stranger yelled, urgency snapping the tension like a twig. Lily and Noah clung to their mother, eyes wide and reflecting a mix of fear and resolve. Carol took a breath, feeling the weight of what was to come. Time had run out. With one final glance at Jessie, whose smile had now twisted into a leer of desperation, Carol led her children toward the door. But before she could step outside, the shadows shifted, and she sensed all around them a deeper darkness, a new fear rising from the depths. Carol! Tom shouted, freeze-framing the fear that gnawed at them all. What if it's worse out there? For a moment, the world held its breath. Just then, the wailing crescendoed, echoing through the shack with a promise of chaos. As Carol stepped into the unknown, she knew a choice had been made. But she couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into a nightmare far worse than Jessie could create. What awaited them in the embrace of the Wraith? With hearts racing, they plunged into the darkness, praying they had made the right choice. The forest loomed ominously around them as Carol and her children stepped outside, the chilling air biting at their skin like tiny shards of ice. Tom's grip tightened on Carol's shoulders, grounding her even as they ventured into the unknown. The faint light from the shack flickered behind them, swallowed by the unyielding dark of the woods. Mom, I'm scared, whispered Lily, her small voice barely audible. I know, honey, Carol soothed, forcing a smile she didn't feel. We're together. We'll figure this out. But even as she assured her daughter, the deep rumble of the Wraith echoed in her mind, gnawing at her resolve. Noah's face was pale, eyes darting back towards the safety of the shack, ready to run back if given half a chance. What if it gets us? He trembled. Tack, tack, tack. The sound was soft at first, like the rustling of leaves in a distant storm. But it picked up, a frantic rhythm like footsteps approaching with intent. Carol pressed her children closer to her side, the warmth of their bodies a fragile comfort against the encroaching dread. Mom, that guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Jessie's voice rang out, sharp and mocking, but now laced with uncertainty. The Wraith? It's just a story, right? Just shut up, Jessie. Tom cut in, glaring at her, his voice a perfect blend of frustration and fear. We're in real danger. Can't you see that? But Jessie stood her ground, her defiance a thin veneer over the terror in her eyes. I told you it's not real. How can you? Just before the argument could escalate, a sound ripped through the forest, a low, guttural growl that resonated from the depths of the trees, curling into their ears and sending ice deep into their bones. It wanted something. And whatever it wasn't coming with friendly intentions. Run! Carol barked, instinctually taking charge, her body surging forward as if propelled by raw instinct. The forest erupted in shadows, the branches slashing at them like claws, while an unseen presence stirred behind, they stumbled deeper into the woods, heartbeats syncopating with their frantic steps. Carol could feel the malevolent force creeping ever closer, an invisible hunter weaving through the darker underbrush. The air crackled with tension, and for a fleeting moment, she imagined something watching something hungry. "Where do we go?" Noah gasped, his small legs faltering as fear overcame him. "Just keep moving," Carol urged, her voice straining as she fought to keep the panic at bay. Each stride felt like it was leading them nowhere, and each glance back made her legs quake with terror. Jessie suddenly broke away from the group, darting into a dense grouping of trees, wild-eyed and desperate. "This way," she called, voice echoing as though it were being swallowed by the dark. "Jessie, wait," Tom called, but the girl had already vanished, swallowed by the shadows, her laughter now echoing eerily in the stillness. "Carol, we can't just leave her," Tom gasped, clearly caught between instinct and the overwhelming horror behind them. "We have to. We can't let it find us. We need to survive." Carol gritted through clenched teeth, blood pounding in her ears. They rushed forward, leaving Jessie behind, and Carol felt every part of her shatter at that decision. But survival instincts kicked in, a primal urge to save her children overriding everything else. Behind them, the growl rose in pitch, the wraith now following, fast as shadows chasing the fading light. Carol could hear the whispers of the forest, branches shifted ominously, and the sensation of being watched swelled. Just as they burst out into a clearing, an icy wind swept through, chilling them to the bone. They skidded to a halt, heart pounding heavy in their chests. What lay ahead was a disquieting sight, a massive stone structure, weather-worn and creaking like an old man's bones. The weight of dread hung thick in the air like smoke. "Is this a way out?" Lily asked, glancing up at her mother, hoping for reassurance. Carol hesitated, glancing back into the suffocating darkness whence they came. "Could be, but we have to. Make sure we stay quiet." The wraith could. A bone-chilling howl pierced the air, slicing through Carol's thoughts. The predatory wail echoed all around, drawing closer, almost as if it were taunting them. "Mom!" Noah whimpered, clinging tightly to her, fear making his voice tremble. "What do we do?" Tom muttered, his own panic rising. Carol's heart raced as the realization struck, going into the structure might trap them, or maybe it was the only way to escape the hunting menace of the wraith. With uncertainty glistening in her eyes, she turned to face her children. "Stay close," she commanded, every fiber of her being boiling with fear and resolve. As they made their way toward the door, shadows moved at the corners of their vision. The wraith was close, and now they had to face another choice: enter the darkness of the stone building or remain outside in the forest with the unseen horror. Which path would prove worse, the devil they knew or the monster they couldn't fully comprehend? The laughter of their friend lingered in the air, haunting them as they stepped into the unknown. Would they be able to escape the wraith's grasp, or would they discover a new nightmare hidden within stone walls? The moment Carol stepped through the rough-hewn door of the stone structure, the dim light bled into a world of shadow and silence. The air grew heavy with dust, like ancient secrets trapped for generations. The walls whispered with an echoing gloom, and her heart raced in trepidation. "Stay close," she urged, urgency lacing her words. The flickers of light from their astounded eyes reflected doubt and fear. But with the wraith lurking behind them, there was no time for hesitation. Just steps inside, it felt as if the darkness had climbed in around them, binding them together, yet isolating them in uncertainty. Noah glanced up. "It's dark, Mommy." "We'll be all right, I promise," Carol whispered, though the doubt gnawed at her insides. Behind them, the anguished howl of the wraith shattered the quiet, shaking the very core of her spirit. The scratching of unseen claws echoed ever closer, thrumming a pulse of pure terror. Suddenly, as if driven by instinct, the shack's door swung shut with an ominous thud, sealing their fate. Carol's breath hitched, pressed in by the weight of impending doom. They had entered a sanctuary, yet it felt like a tomb. "What do we do?" Tom peered anxiously into the darkened corners, the tension in his voice mirroring the dread pressing on them. We need to find a way to barricade the door. Carol spoke urgently, scanning the dilapidated space filled with rubble and twisted metal. There was something about the cold air that sent a shiver across her skin, igniting her resolve. As they scrambled together, Lily's voice cut through the thickening dread. What if Jessie comes? What if the wraith gets her? A lump formed in Carol's throat as she recalled how Jessie had darted away. We can't think about her right now. We need to survive. Just as they positioned a heavy table against the door, a swirling shadow danced across the room, flitting to and fro, carrying with it a hint of something terrible. There's no safe place from me, Carol, a voice whispered, sleek and soaked in malice. Carol's heart dropped. It was Jessie, yet not the Jessie they knew. This was something altogether more sinister, her figure distorted by the enveloping shadows, grinning with an unearthly smile. You're trapped, just like I wanted. Jessie, please, you have to fight this. Tom choked out, his voice taut with disbelief. This isn't you. Fight? Jessie screeched, her laughter melding with the dark, reverberating through the space as it twisted to an unseen rhythm. Why would I? This is my game now. Carol felt the intensity of Jessie's presence tighten around them, like a noose drawing in. The room pulsated with darkness that they could feel thick on their skin, an oppressive weight that whispered of ruin and despair. I want to let you take my family. Carol cried out, voice straining against the shadows. Your family? Jessie's laughter turned grotesque. They're just pieces on this board, like you. That was when Carol spotted a glimmer of light breaking through the cracks on the wall, illuminating an ancient stone inscription barely visible beneath the dust, words that glowed with power and purpose. We need to reach that light somehow. It might help us. With determination ignited within her, Carol pulled her family close. Follow me. In blind desperation, they ran toward it, but Jessie lunged, shadows stretching out to ensnare them, pulling at their limbs, dragging whispers of dread in her wake. Where do you think you're going? She taunted, voice echoing around the thickening air. Push through. Tom yelled, the strength of his voice breaking through the despair, matching Carol's determination. They barreled forward, the pull of Jessie's laughter vibrating through them like nails on a chalkboard. With one last desperate push, they reached the wall of light, and everything fell silent. Carol reached out, fingers grazing the mysterious inscription, and suddenly, warmth flooded through her. She felt strength. All the love she had for her family surged forward, embracing the light like a protective shield. This ends now. As she declared it, a brilliant pulse emanated from her fingertips, splashing across the room in a burst of vibrant energy. As it collided with the dark, the walls shook, and Jessie's expression shifted from triumph to panic. No! What are you doing? The light grew stronger, sweeping away the shadows and whispering words of protection that brought clarity. With each surge, Jessie shrank back, the darkness billowing away from Carol and her children, obliterating the oppressive grip of fear that had held them hostage. In the quiet that followed, the old shack transformed. It became just an empty room, the air finally settling. The walls whispered secrets of what once was, but without the weight of dread. Jessie was gone, banished into the recess of the shadows. Did we win? Noah asked, confusion clouding his young mind. Carol knelt, brushing his hair from his brow. For now, we're safe. She turned to Tom, their eyes locking, a shared acknowledgement of love and resilience. They fought through darkness together, and their bond had fortified. The soft glow seeped into their reality, guiding them back to safety. They turned toward the broken door, feeling the new light of dawn breaking beyond it. Holding her family tight, Carol stepped out into the new day, the weight of fear lifting with the morning sun. As they emerged, the world felt renewed, the promise of brighter days ahead shimmering like the golden sunlight breaking over the horizon. And though the shadows from the past would linger, Carol's heart was unbroken, fixated on hope and the power of resilience. Together, they would forge ahead, free from the clutches of their darkest fears, ready to create a future filled with laughter and love. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss exclusive stories like this. Smash the like button to feed the algorithm. We truly appreciate your help. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.